Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of us think we have figured out, geography. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's so much more than just drawing maps or memorizing places. So let's get right into it. When I say the word geography, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably those high school pop quizzes, right? Naming state capitals, pointing to countries on a map. But get this, that's kind of like saying biology is just about knowing the names of animals. You're missing the whole entire point.
See, the real magic of geography, the thing that makes it tick, isn't about the what or the where. Nope, it's all about the why. It's a science, a way of thinking, dedicated to figuring out the cause and effect relationships that shape literally everything around us, from mountains to motorways.
Okay, so why should you care, right? Because geography isn't some far-off, abstract subject. It is deeply personal. It shapes almost every single part of our daily lives, usually in ways we don't even realize. I mean, just think about it for a second. The climate and the type of soil where you live, that has a huge impact on the food that ends up on your plate. The resources nearby are what power your home and help build the phone you're probably holding. The truth is, we're in this constant dance with our environment. We adapt to it, and then, in turn, we change it. All right, to really wrap our heads around this, let's rewind a bit and look at where the word geography even comes from. It's pretty revealing. Okay, so the word itself? It was actually coined way back by the Greek scholar Eratosthenes. And it's super simple. Geo means earth, and graphos means description. So literally, the description of the earth. But wow, does that simple phrase hide a ton of complexity.
Right, so it's not just a checklist of stuff on Earth, like mountains, oceans, and deserts. It's also about everything humans have built. Our villages, our cities, our roads, our farms. Geography is the field that studies the differences in both of these things. And this is the crucial part, how they're all tangled up together.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. Think of the Earth as a giant stage. It's got its own set, its own props, its own rules. And we, human societies, we're the actors on that stage, playing out this incredible drama with our skills and our creativity. And geography? It studies the whole show, the stage, the actors, and how they interact. So how do geographers actually do this? How do they unpack this whole performance? Well, they have a toolkit, a simple but really powerful 3-step framework that helps uncover the story. So, you've got your first two questions, what and where. And yeah, those are the building blocks. They give us the basic inventory of what's out there and where it is. For a long time, that's kind of where geography stopped. But it was adding that third question, that simple word, why, that was the real game changer. It turned geography from just a description into a real science that hunts for connections. Here, let's make this real with an example. Imagine a geographer notices that farmers in one area grow wheat, but in a nearby area it's all rice. Asking why opens up this whole web of possibilities. Is it the soil, the local climate? Is it what the market wants? Or is it about the technology the farmers have access to? Digging in and finding those connections, that is what geography is all about. And all of this really leads us to the main event, the central drama that geography is obsessed with, that incredible, complicated, two-way street between us humans and the natural world. If you think about it, early human societies pretty much had to play by nature's rules. They had to adapt to what was right there in front of them just to survive. But then, technology just completely changed the game. Suddenly, we could build dams, make deserts bloom, and connect the entire planet. We moved from a state of necessity, where we just had to take what nature gave us, to a state of possibility, where we started shaping our own world. There's this short, beautiful quote that just captures this whole idea perfectly. It's this back and forth, right? Nature gives us the raw materials, the soil, the dark, the raw earth. And humanity, with our ingenuity, we turn them into something new. A cup, a lamp, a garden. It's a true collaboration. So what you get after centuries of this back and forth is what geographers call humanized nature. And really, it's the world you see every day. From giant farms to sprawling cities, we have left our fingerprints pretty much everywhere. We've reshaped the stage we live on. And of course, that kind of power, well, that comes with its own huge set of challenges and consequences, which is a big part of what geography looks at today. Okay, let's zoom out and pull all these threads together. After all this, what's the big idea here? What's the main takeaway? At the end of the day, geography isn't some dusty book full of facts. It's a lens. It's a totally different way of seeing the world. It gives you the tools to look at a city or a forest or a farm and ask that all-important question, why is it this way? It helps you see the invisible web of connections between us and our planet. So here's my challenge to you.
The next time you're out and about, don't just look at the world. Ask why. Why is that city built on a river? Why does this valley grow that specific crop? Because once you start asking why, you start to think like a geographer. And I promise, you will never see your world the same way again.
Let's start with a simple idea. We tend to think of geography as, just memorizing capitals and coloring in maps. But what if I told you it's actually the secret code to understanding, well, pretty much everything, from history and economics to our own daily lives? In the next few minutes, we're going to completely change how you see the world.
So here's our roadmap. We'll start off in the global village that we all live in now. Then we'll see how geography is this kind of master key that connects all the sciences. We'll look at how it literally writes history. We'll add the slightly mind-bending fourth dimension of time, and then we'll bring it all home so you can start seeing your own world with brand new eyes.
All right, first stop, a place we're all familiar with, even if we don't use the name, the global village.
Right, the present world is a global village. It's this idea that technology has basically shrunk our planet. I mean, think about it. You can have a video call with someone on the complete opposite side of the world. You get news from another continent in an instant. All those vast distances that used to separate us, they just feel smaller and smaller, connecting all of us in this one gigantic, complicated, and, yeah, sometimes chaotic community.
And how did our world get so small, so fast? Well, it was really a perfect storm of three things. First, transportation got way better, so we can move our bodies faster than ever. Second, instant media lets us beam sights and sounds directly to us from anywhere. And third, information tech, well, it connects our minds across any distance imaginable. It's that combo that really creates this feeling of one single giant village.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? When everything and everyone is connected, how on earth do you make sense of all the patterns, the conflicts, the relationships? How do you see the big picture when there's so many moving parts? Well, this brings us to the hero of our story. The tool we need to understand this village is geography, but probably not the kind you're thinking of. We're talking about geography as the great integrator. So what in the world is an integrating discipline? It just means that geography isn't some subject off in its own little box. It's more like a master key. It's the field that doesn't just study places on a map. No, it studies the relationships between things in those places, and it does that by pulling together dozens of other fields to create one single coherent picture of reality.
Just think of geography as the central hub where all these other areas meet. It's the field that asks the really interesting questions, like how does the climate of a region affect its economy? Or how did mountains and rivers shape political borders and, the entire course of history? Geography is what pulls all those different threads together to tell the full story.
And this quote right here, it nails it. The whole point is to understand reality in its spatial perspective. That's a fancy way of saying it's not just about what is happening, but where it's happening and, the most important part, why it's happening right there. It's the why of where.
Okay, so this sounds pretty cool in theory, but let's see it in action. Let's look at some seriously powerful examples of how geography has literally written human history.
Physical space itself has always been a game changer in history. For example, a country's sheer size, its spatial depth, gives it an incredible defensive advantage. You can retreat and regroup. For centuries, the massive oceans acted as a shield, protecting the Americas from old-world conflicts. And having a long coastline, like India does, just naturally pushes you towards sea travel, trade, and contact with other cultures.
And geographical features can be fascinatingly two-faced. Take the Himalayas, absolutely massive, right? For centuries, they were a huge wall protecting the Indian subcontinent. But at the exact same time, the passes through those mountains were like doorways, channeling wave after wave of migrants and invaders from Central Asia. So it was a barrier and a corridor, all at once.
And you can see this cause and effect chain reaction on a global scale. The age of colonization wasn't just driven by ambition. It was fueled by mastering geography through technology. As European nations got better at building ships and navigating, they basically unlocked the oceans. They turned these massive barriers into superhighways. And that access is what directly allowed them to reach and then colonize countries all over Asia and Africa.
So we've been talking about space a lot, but if you thought geography was just about the physical world, well, get ready. We're about to add a whole new dimension that changes everything. I mean, we're all comfortable with the three dimensions of space, right? Length, width, height. But what's the fourth dimension in geography? It's not some weird sci-fi thing, it's something you and I deal with literally every single day.
It's time, and it makes perfect sense when you see it this way. You can measure the distance between place A and place B in kilometers, right? That's space. But you can also measure it in hours. Is that place 2 hours away by plane, or is it 17 hours away by train? For a geographer, both are totally crucial ways to understand the real relationship between two places. It's the conversion of space into time.
And that is the huge shift in thinking. A real geographic viewpoint is four-dimensional. It doesn't see the world as a flat, static map. It sees it as a dynamic, living thing that's constantly changing through space and over time.
Okay, so let's wrap this all up. We've kind of torn down the old idea of geography and built up a new one. So what does this mean for how you see the world, starting right now?
This is your new geographic lens. From here on out, remember, geography is the great integrator that connects everything else. It's the tool that explains the why of where. It thinks in 4 dimensions, space and time. And at the end of the day, it's pretty much the best key we have for understanding this complicated, messy, amazing global village we all live in. And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. The same giant forces that shaped empires and moved mountains have also shaped you. The climate where you grew up, the layout of your town, the history that brought your family to where they are, that's all geography. So the real question is, how has geography shaped your story?
You know, when most of us hear the word geography, we kind of think of memorizing maps, right? But what if I told you it's actually this incredible way of seeing the hidden connections that shape our entire world? Let's dive in.
So let me ask you, what's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear geography? For a lot of us, it's probably a flashback to grade school, coloring in countries and trying to memorize all the state capitals. But that, honestly, is just one tiny piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. See, the real heart of geography isn't about memorizing what is where. It's about asking why it's there and how it's all connected. It's really a perspective, a powerful lens for understanding the super complex relationships between people, places, and the planet itself.
To really get this, we've got to go back to the very beginning of modern geography, because it was basically built on this fascinating split, this dualism, you could say. It was all shaped by 2 brilliant German geographers who were working around the same time but had completely different ideas about how to study the world.
Okay, so on one side, you've got Alexander von Humboldt and his systematic approach. He wanted to take a single topic, let's say volcanoes, and study it across the entire globe to find these big, universal patterns. Then on the other side, you have Carl Ritter and his regional approach. He was all about studying a single specific place in crazy detail, its climate, its people, its economy, the whole shebang, to figure out what made it unique. Here's a great way to think about it. Humboldt wants to study every single oak tree in the whole forest. Ritter, he wants to study everything, the trees, the dirt, the bugs, all of it, but just in 1 acre. So let's explore Humboldt's idea first, right? Looking at the world by topic. This is the systematic approach, and it's all about taking that big global view of just one thing. The way it works is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You pick a topic, say natural vegetation. First, you look at it all over the world. Then, you start to see patterns, and you can start to classify things. You go, okay, here are the equatorial rainforests, and over here are the monsoon forests. And way up here, you've got the conical forests. You're basically building a global blueprint for that one specific thing. Now, this approach breaks down into a few key areas. First up is physical geography. This is all the planet's natural systems. We're talking everything from how mountains are formed to the water we drink and the very soil we're standing on. Then, of course, there's human geography, which is all about us. It looks at how our societies, our cultures, our economies, and our political systems shape the world around us. You could almost say it's the story of humanity written right onto the landscape. And finally, sitting right where the physical and human worlds meet, you get biogeography. This branch looks at where life is, plants, animals, ecosystems, and it's where we tackle really urgent problems like pollution and conservation. It's a huge deal. Okay, so we've seen the world through Humboldt's systematic lens. Now let's totally switch gears and look at it through Carl Ritter's eyes. This is looking at the world by place, the regional approach. So, instead of starting globally with one topic, this approach carves the world up into regions. And a region could be natural, like a desert, or political, like a country. Then it dives deep, studying everything inside that one region, holistically. The whole point is to figure out what makes that one place totally unique, to find the unity in its diversity, as they say.
And this deep dive approach has some really practical uses, you know? It's not just theory. It's used for everything from huge regional studies down to the urban planning that shapes our cities and towns. It's all about becoming an expert on a specific place to help it grow and thrive.
So for more than 100 years, geography kind of had these two camps, right? The systematic, topic-first crew versus the regional, place-first crew. But what's so amazing is what's happening right now. Modern technology has pretty much united them.
And that is the absolute game changer. Geographers today don't have to pick a side anymore. Technology lets them be both Humboldt and Ritter at the same time. They can analyze these massive global data sets and in the next second zoom all the way in to understand a single neighborhood with unbelievable precision.
And all this is possible because of a field called geoinformatics. We're talking about remote sensing from satellites that can track deforestation in the Amazon from space. That's systematic. We're talking about GIS, which lets us layer all kinds of information, like population density, flood zones, roads, onto a single map of one region. And of course, GPS, which tells us the exact location of anything, anywhere on Earth.
You know, the Map app on your phone is the perfect example of all this. It uses a systematic, global data set of roads and satellite pictures, but it applies it to your specific regional location to give you directions. It's literally Humboldt and Ritter working together right there in your pocket. So, the next time you look at a map, or even just look around your own neighborhood, I want you to ask yourself, what new connections can you see now?
Have you ever just looked at the world around you and thought, well, it just is? Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and ask a question that secretly explains pretty much everything in your life. What exactly is physical geography? I mean, really think about it for a second. Why is your city right where it is? Why do you eat the kinds of food you do? It all seems so random, but I promise you it's not. There are these huge, powerful forces at play, and today, we're going to find out what they are. You see, those little everyday questions connect to a much, much bigger picture. Because the world you see every day, the mountains, the rivers, the coastlines, it's all been carved out and shaped by geography. And that's where we get our answer. The key to all of this is physical geography. It's the science that unlocks the why behind the world we see, feel, and live in every single day. So, let's get into it. What is this stuff, really? Let's break it down. At its heart, physical geography is just the study of Earth's physical stuff. You know, mountains, rivers, oceans, and all the powerful forces that are constantly creating and changing them. And to really wrap your head around it, geographers think about the planet in terms of 4 giant, interconnected systems. They call them spheres. And trust me, once you see them, you're going to start seeing them everywhere. These 4 spheres are like the dream team that makes our world work. You've got the lithosphere, that's the solid ground, the atmosphere, that's all the air, the hydrosphere, all the water, and the biosphere, that's all of life itself. Let's do a quick flyby of each one. First up, the lithosphere. Super simple. It's the land, the solid, rocky crust of our planet. It's the mountains, the valleys, the plains, literally the foundation we build our entire world on. Then you've got the atmosphere. This is that invisible blanket of gas all around us. It's not just the air we breathe, it's the engine that creates all of our weather and climate. Next is the hydrosphere. This is all the water on the planet, from the huge oceans down to the rivers that are kind of like the Earth's arteries. And finally, my favorite, the biosphere. This is where all the other spheres come together and create the magic of life. From the tiniest bacteria to the biggest whale, and yep, that means us too. We're all part of the biosphere. Okay, so those are the 4 spheres. But this isn't just a science lesson. This stuff directly shapes our lives and our history. Let's dig into how these massive systems have guided human civilization. And the connection between land and what we do is incredibly direct. It's almost common sense, right? We see flat, fertile plains and we think, hey, let's plant some crops. We find high plateaus, and that's where we get forests and minerals. And mountains? They're not just for postcards. They provide pastures for animals, they drive tourism, and they're the source of the rivers that bring water to entire regions. And it's not just the land either. The climate, which is all about the atmosphere, influences almost everything about our daily lives. The type of house you need, the clothes you wear, the food you eat, it's all decided by the climate and what crops can actually grow there. A perfect example is India, where the entire agricultural rhythm for over 1 billion people depends on the arrival of the monsoon rains. It's a massive case of human life adapting to the atmosphere. So, what this all boils down to is a fundamental relationship
a give and take. The planet gives us the raw materials, the water, the soil, the minerals. And what do? We use them to build, well, everything. Our societies, our economies, our cultures. It's this constant dance between people and the planet.
But, and this is a really big but, this is where our story takes a sharp turn. For thousands and thousands of years, that dance had a certain rhythm, a balance. But recently, that has changed a lot. So what changed? One word: technology. Our own cleverness has given us the power to pull resources from the earth on a scale our ancestors couldn't even dream of. And doing that is throwing the whole system out of balance. And the source material uses this perfect phrase: an accelerated pace of resource utilization. All that means is we're moving too fast. We're taking too much from the earth too quickly, and it's creating a serious ecological problem. The very systems we depend on for survival are feeling the strain. So, what do? It sounds a little scary, I know, but the solution, believe it or not, brings us right back to where we started this whole conversation, with geography. And this is the main takeaway. Studying physical geography isn't just for a final exam. It is absolutely essential if we want to build a future that lasts, what experts call sustainable development. You know, the idea that we can live well now without wrecking the planet for future generations. So, how do we get there? Well, the path is actually pretty clear. First, we have to truly understand the deep connection between us and our environment. Second, we use that knowledge to get smarter about how we manage our natural resources. And third, the whole point is to use that careful management to make sure our way of life, our economies, and our cultures can actually last. And that leads us to the final and most important question of all. We have the knowledge now. We understand what's at stake. So the question is no longer, what is physical geography? The real question is, how are we going to use what we know to shape a better, more balanced future?